Welcome everybody to 2025. I would like to wish you all a happy new year. May all of your dreams come true this year and let none oil not spill on your desks and on your miniatures unintendedly. And so forth and so on, whatever you wish, may it come true. Let's start this year with some basics.
Oh shit, here we go again.
I will try to cover all of the basic techniques, basic ideas in short informative videos, as those are very important topics. The first one of them is something that we always have to start with, so it's basing. What is miniature basing and why do we need it? Well, this is slowly turning to a clusterfuck due to all of the mistakes that I'm making along the way in the video, but let's keep it. I always promise that I'll keep any mistakes on the models during the video, whatever. So let's move on. The essence of priming. So what is miniature priming and why do we need it? Why do we prime our models? Because acrylic paints are not the best ones to adhere to such surfaces like plastic, metal, resin. Yeah, I know, it doesn't quite hold on to what we are doing as hobbyists, but it is true. And therefore, the chemicals in the primers make the paint in them stick better to all of your models and they don't tend to flake off afterwards. What the important question here is it possible to not prime a model and paint over it? Sure, but then there is a higher possibility of the paint falling off, flaking off, chipping off. Let's speak about a few types of priming methods. And I'm 100% or even 105% sure that there are more of them, but I will cover only 3. Spray can primers. So we have different brands of spray can primers. People even tend to use some non-dedicated products. I have never used them and therefore I cannot recommend any of them. The thing that you need to know is, it is very important to use them outdoors and shake them well. Because, and let me quote my friend Tomek here, who lectured me on this because I had no idea. Polyacrylic is an acrylic paint diluted with polyurethane solvent. It is usually a 2-component paint, and the paint that you use for airbrushing is water-based acrylics. In both cases, the catalyst is air. It's just that the solvent evaporates several times faster than water. In the can, this polyacrylic is already mixed with the hardener, but it does not cure because there is no air. This is why there are problems with spray primers. You often see this on groups. It results from this. A. That the paint is 2-component and the ingredients are insufficiently mixed. B. That the paint is old. Just have a look. We have our dude here. Gloves and a mask. Those are really important. Preferably use a spray can primer outside and then shake that son of a gun really well. The can says 2 minutes of shaking. You can do that if you have the biceps for it. The most important thing in my opinion when using a spray can is not spraying it directly on the model. Use an up and down motion until the model is fully covered with the paint. Leave it somewhere to dry. Remember that the paint, due to the polyurethane solvent, has a very distinct and irritating smell. Those are chemicals that are better left outside to dry and evaporate. And remember to leave them outside until the smell is gone. And we have our first model primed. Let's move on. Airbrush primers. I have used a few of them. Most of them work the same. My favorite at the moment is Molotov One for All Black. It is perfectly diluted for the airbrush. I don't need to do anything with it. Just pour it into the airbrush. It is very sturdy and it has a very glossy finish, which helps to find all of the hidden details and gives me a better understanding of the highlights on the model. I use a 0.5 needle airbrush for priming. The better one is for the details. Remember to dilute and shake the airbrush primer if it is needed. Use products like flow improver or airbrush thinner and just cover the model evenly like this. Don't overspray it, don't rush it, better give it a thin coat. Move to a different part of the model and then get back with a second layer. Leave it to dry for a few minutes and the model is ready for painting. Next one. Brush priming. Sometimes we just don't have an airbrush. They are not very cheap. Or we don't have the option to use a spray can primer outside. What is the possibility then? Use an airbrush primer with a simple brush. There are also some dedicated products for brush priming. Have a look here. I use the same primer as with the airbrush. Just put it on a palette, dilute it if you need to dilute it, and paint over your model. This of course takes a lot more time than airbrushing, but in my opinion it works perfectly fine. Just remember to cover all of the nooks and crannies and you're good. You may see that the paint doesn't cover very well at some points. Leave it until it dries and repeat the process again. Repeat it until you have an evenly covered model. Well, let's move to a quick summary. So friends, we have our 3 priming methods shown. Let's point out a few simple characteristics. Spray can priming. So, it is not very expensive, it doesn't require much practice, it is very reliable. Unfortunately, due to the chemicals, it is somehow toxic. It requires a separate, well-ventilated area, but it is the only method, in my opinion and in my experience, suitable for all types of models, and I mean plastic, resin, and metal. Brush priming. It is definitely the cheapest option. It doesn't require any practice. It is mostly reliable if you repeat it and do it with a thin coat. It doesn't expose you to harmful chemicals like the spray cans. And it also doesn't require a separate, well-ventilated area, and in my practice, unfortunately it doesn't go well with metallic models. The last one is airbrush priming. It is unfortunately the most expensive option. It requires some practice, but is very reliable. Overexposure to the fumes can be harmful, so it is very important to have a ventilation system or an air filter. It is not mandatory, but it is desirable. And in my practice, it also doesn't go well with metallic models. And that's it for the models. I will leave you for a short moment with the results. Have fun! Remember guys to subscribe to the channel, like, share, visit my Patreon, Instagram and Discord. Take care friends, and see you on the next one. And don't forget, the Emperor always protects.